Hi from the
English Sisters.
and welcome to Get Real with the
English Sisters.
Today we'll be talking about
Curiosity. And is your curiosity bigger than your ego?
Is it now?
It's mine.
We're having a laugh because it was a little bit awkward to get our heads around it at first.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think if you understand that, the fact is that if your curiosity is bigger than your ego, then you're always going to be able to learn. Because the curiosity, if your ego is bigger than your curiosity, then I think in the end your self-esteem and how you value yourself is already so big that there's not much room for kind of like being curious about new stuff, is there? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the ego is bigger than the curiosity.
Yeah.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Well, it kind of does, yeah. I mean, it's not a kind of a normal thing one would think about, but if you actually think about it...
Who was it that said that? Why?
Well, I heard it, I think, in a podcast or something, and it was Professor Lee Cronin, and it was on Twitter, actually. And he said, if your ego is bigger than your curiosity, then you cannot do science, period.
I suppose scientists have to always be curious, don't they, to learn?
Well, obviously.
To discover new discoveries.
Yeah, they have to be so curious. I mean, I think that's one of the fundamental things you have to be as a scientist is curiosity. Ever since you're like 2, 3, 4, 5, then if you've got that curious mindset, then you could well become a scientist.
Well, we always have ingrained curiosity. My daughter's a scientist, and her
curiosity was enormous as a child. Do you remember? Yeah. She was curious about everything.
But I think curiosity comes with play a lot. If you allow your children to play.
Well, yeah, I guess so. You have that kind of playful mindset, then you're not in your own ego all the time. But if we come away from children, we become more thinking adult. Adults. Because children, I think they're naturally curious. And if a child isn't naturally curious, then that's because he's being, or she or they are being limited.
By someone,
yeah.
Or something.
Their environment, someone or something, yeah. Is so limiting that they're not allowed, they cannot actually be curious. But
yeah, I remember when I got to around, after I did university and everything, I remember I got to around when I was around 35 when I thought I'd learned everything because I just finished learning kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until I started studying hypnosis and NLP that the lifelong learning thing came back into play, and the curious element came back into being curious.
Yeah,
again.
I do think that's a very standard way of living. Most people live their lives like that.
You kind of get stagnant, don't you?
Yeah, I think you go to school, then you go to uni if you go, college, whatever, and then you think, I finished learning. Unless it's just like learning for work, like new
if it's forced
programs.
Upon you, forced learning, you have to do a course because you're at work.
You're at work, it's for
and
work.
And it has to be, you have to keep up with the...
Yeah. Otherwise, I think that's about it, yeah.
But I think that's quite dangerous because I think
that's terribly dangerous, really. Well,
because you can get so convinced with your ideas that you won't accept the new technologies or the new ideas that are coming in.
Well, that's it. That's your ego as well, isn't it? Your ego
is because you become like big-headed.
Well,
you kind of think, I've been there, done that, and I know it.
Exactly.
The kind of mentality.
Well, the definition of ego is defined as a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance.
Self-importance.
So there you go. I mean, we all have an ego, and some of us have a larger ego than others.
Well, what do you think about then that self-importance has come to mind, thinking about the people that have like that? I was watching a program the other day, and they said a lot of actors feel like as if they're faking it. They have that syndrome.
That's
What's
like a
it
lack
called?
of
I can't remember what that
self-importance.
syndrome's called. Can you remember?
No, I know what you're talking about though.
It's when you think
It's
you're
like you're
you're
faking
not
it.
qualified enough, but really you are qualified enough.
Yeah,
It's
God,
called
what is it? Yeah, I know what it's...
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter, yeah.
I knew it was some kind of syndrome.
Yeah, that
And they said loads of actors that I was watching a documentary saying that lots of actors have the imposter even after they've won Oscars and things. I mean, I suppose they are imposters in a way because they're like playing
acting
a part.
is an imposter, but then
It's not really an imposter because they're supposed to be playing the
Yeah,
part, but
they're
they're in
playing.
someone else's shoes, really.
yeah. Yeah, that is different to what we're actually saying about curiosity, though. I think that's that's another kind of thing, the imposter syndrome. I think but you were right in saying that once we finish uni, even if you didn't go to uni. I mean, I didn't go to university,
Yeah.
but whatever.
Once you finish your studies,
you finish your
18,
studies,
you finish
yeah.
studying, then you might start working, and then you think you've done your learning.
You think you've done it.
Because I suppose we have been learning for so many years. Even if you
Yes.
only go up to 16 or 18, it's still most of your life. By the time you finish that, you think, wow.
I'm sick of it.
yeah.
But that's a shame, really, isn't it?
Well, I think it is a shame because I think if you teach your children from when they're really tiny that it's lifelong learning and you never ever finish learning like what we know now.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, it's amazing, and life becomes so much more inspiring because you learn so many things.
Nowadays, you can learn from so many different methods, like from podcasts and from watching YouTube videos. And learning doesn't have to be strictly in the academic sense of the
Exactly.
boring, if you think about it, like really boring books and textbooks that were hard to comprehend. Nowadays, learning can really be... I mean, if you get your ego out of the way and you don't think I know everything, then curiosity can just be set free, and you can really start absorbing these new things that you learn all the time in the most random ways. I think it's really
Well, I think
marvelous.
now that we look everything up. That's amazing.
That
you can just look things up quickly and find
Exactly.
a whole
reel of it.
before you'd have to go to the library.
Exactly.
To get this stuff.
Exactly.
Obviously, we're talking.
So how do we get our egos, sort of put our egos at bay? What's the solution?
The solution is lifelong learning, I think.
You think if
you always put yourself into the state that you're continuously learning and you can always get feedback from other people.
But I think if your ego is that big, the question is not posed in your mind, is it? Because
then it's a dead end for you.
then it's a dead end. Yeah.
I mean, unless you're listening to something
And you randomly spark.
and it sparks, and you suddenly realise that this is happening to you, but.
Because if this resonates
you have to be
with you,
open to the mentality. Because if you're not, then there's no point. It's like beating. What's it called? Flogging a dead horse. The expression.
Yeah, there's no point
Not
because
a very nice expression.
no, it's awful. Really, I don't even know what it means really. But
I mean, it means you can't get life out of something that's not. Flog is
What
to
is
beat.
flog?
I
To
mean.
beat.
Yeah, no, it's
Oh, how
horrible.
awful! Because in the olden
used
days,
to
they would
beat
beat the horses so they'd run faster.
so
Or
they'd run
I see.
faster.
Gosh, that really is a horrific
It's a horrible
expression. I think it really should be.
Very archaic. I think we should put it to rest.
You should put it to rest. You said it. Definitely, let's put that one to rest. It's horrific.
Oh dear.
But it certainly gets a message across. I mean, I've understood
It's a
what you're
message that
meaning.
You shouldn't.
It's the dead part. So if your mind is kind of like dead in a way, you can't beat it and you can't stimulate it in any way. So let's not have these
You're
dead
not
minds.
open to new possibilities and new learnings.
I think we all have to become aware
We're
of
always. I mean, there's always going to be a part of I think nearly everybody that thinks that that's it. I've done it. I mean,
Most of us.
most
of us do,
including
yeah.
ourselves.
Ourselves,
We're not.
yeah. When you
It's
reach
not-
adulthood, you kind
also
of...
because you get tired, don't you?
You get tired.
and you think I've done enough. I can't cope with anything else. But I think that the tiredness also comes with the fact that you're not open.
Well,
Because when you open up to new learnings, then you suddenly become inspired, and then, like what we were saying in the other podcast we did, then everything just becomes easier and flows easier, and you have more energy.
Yeah, but how can
So
you
it's like-
open up? What's the secret to opening up and to becoming
The
aware?
secret to opening up is learning.
I know, but if you're closed and you can't, and you
What is this? You seem to know the answer.
No.
I've said it. It's lifelong learning. That's my version. Now she's trying to beat me. You're trying to beat me into an answer. Insisting and insisting. If you know the answer out there.
you a question, then you give me the answer.
Well, I've given you my answer. What's your answer?
I think it's quite tricky, really, because I do think if somebody's ego, in the sense of, not in a malicious sense or anything, I think if their ego is fully satisfied with themselves, then it is like what you said, then the mind is just sort of at peace in a way, and there's no interest for new learnings. I really don't think.
But sometimes I'm just thinking of maybe older people. Sometimes a new, like I was thinking of Dad.
Yeah.
When we had children and we
Yeah.
told Dad like to stop smoking.
Yeah.
Before he was utterly convinced. I know it's not a new learning, but for him it was a kind of new learning that he had to relearn how not to do something anymore.
Yes, yeah.
And he did it because he had a motivation. Because we said that you can't come near our children if you're smoking.
Oh, yeah, we were so strict. Yeah, that in the
and
end.
so he quickly stopped
Smoking, yeah.
because when we were pregnant, do you remember, we can't come near us if we're pregnant and you're smoking.
Yeah, I do remember that. So the motivation has to be high.
That was external.
There has to be
there was an external motivation, like a little seed was set.
A
or
reward.
like when they had to come to Italy, our parents had to learn Italian.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think their egos weren't that big.
No, they were used to being always
I think
learning.
it's a bit different for them, but I think if you have an exterior motivation, I think that's why people like doctors they continuously have to learn, because the motivation is if you don't learn the new
that's
stuff.
for the job, like what we
the
were
job,
saying
you
before.
get kicked out.
That's a different kind of that's a forced kind of
Maybe
learning.
that forced kind of learning kind of does keep you up to date.
Oh,
though.
no, definitely.
And maybe
Well,
it does keep your ego
goodness
at bay.
gracious me! I mean, with doctors, we would hope that would always be forced upon them.
We've
Really,
seen many arrogant doctors.
many arrogant ones that
surgeons.
have big egos, and then
Yeah,
they've
they're
stopped
usually
becoming
not the good ones.
Not at all. You never want them. You'd rather have
beware.
a younger person.
that will Google stuff.
that
like
will.
what in our experience.
We have had doctors that we've spoken to that just literally just look at their phones and say, "Oh yeah, that's it. I've just Googled it." I mean, great. In some, obviously not for super important things, but
But
some
when they want
work.
to find out more information about something
yeah.
to give you more an informed opinion.
Yes, they can. There's nothing wrong with that, and we really highly appreciate people like that that will do that.
Because it also means they're open to collaborations. People that
Yeah.
are open to collaborations usually have smaller egos because they
then
collaborate with other people.
Yeah, and they.
Maybe that's a thing as well, collaboration. Would you accept?
What is that the
That's
answer
the
then?
answer as
is,
well.
is to
Collaborate. Maybe that's why scientists have to collaborate all the time,
yeah,
worldwide.
a lot of the times they have to work in teams, don't they? Yeah, scientists are amazing because they have to go through all that rejection, a rejected paper, rejected. Some things don't go right.
Nothing goes right practically.
Not
Very
nothing,
few. No,
but yeah,
it
but
takes
there's-
years and years to get results. Come
Yeah,
on.
they have great
have a
resilience,
lot.
don't they?
They have a
Yeah.
lot of rejection, and a lot of times the experiments fail.
That is so true. So no wonder he says that you can't have, if your curiosity, if your ego's larger than your curiosity, then you can't do science. I mean, there's no wonder in that. So maybe we should all think of ourselves as like little scientists going around the world and just
Discovering it.
and just
No, that's a good thing.
maybe we should all think of ourselves as in
That could be the solution.
to think that we're like all scientists and we're all going to
Right,
discover
Dora the Explorer.
and it kind of learn to explore our own minds and learn
In our own worlds.
in our own worlds and learn, and then just become aware. I think that if we do become I think if we ask ourselves the questions, is my ego larger than my curiosity? if you can understand and comprehend that question at a certain level, and you really ask yourself that question. I mean, we're going to challenge you now. Ask yourself that question and see what comes up just off the top of your head. If you do think it's yes, or if you think it's no. And then if you say no, ask yourself why. Why is it no? Is it because you are open to new learnings, no matter... And when I say learnings, I mean learnings from everybody. You know, it could be a neighbour that just gives you a new piece of information about something. Oh, did you know you're painting your fence? Well, why don't you try using this other paint or something? You know, did you know you could paint your fences with a kind of colour that comes from grass? What is it? Chlorophyll. What's that called?
Chlorophyll.
Chlorophyll. You can actually paint. You can use that as a paint, and you know, and that's like super ecological. Just notice if you just kind of dismiss notions, or if you're open to listening.
That'd be more like a stain, I would imagine. Kind of stains the wood.
It kind of does stain the wood.
So it's like a protection. Does it protect?
Not much, but it kind of
It gives it
it gives it colour, and it's ecological. Like if you want to have your vegetable patch, like what we've done here in our garden. For the compost heap, we just stained it.
Yes.
But it doesn't look like... It doesn't look ugly anymore.
Yeah.
It kind of blends in with the rest of the garden.
But
So.
you just used pallets, so you didn't really need protection, did you? No, because I'm just thinking, but you can find ecological ones.
Well, yeah, but this is what I mean by not having a
But
large
just
ego.
asking questions,
Well,
maybe.
not even asking, but being open to what other people are saying to you. You know, anybody, like...
And also, I think it helps, like, if you have a different political point of view, if you
yeah, politics.
Politics, because a lot of people are very set in their mindset, and there's a lot of arguments. I mean, even in couples and things about different
families are
political...
destroyed through politics.
So if you can be open to other people's point of view as well, maybe learning other, you know, going into the background, studying things, finding out why people are doing what they're doing, you know, all these kind of things.
Yeah, definitely. If you can kind of just take a deep breath, and when they're talking about something that may be from
quiet.
Keeping quiet, and also
listening maybe as well, active listening. Active listening is when you actually do listen, you don't interrupt, and you absorb the information.
You absorb it without...
You haven't, or you're not already thinking of the answer.
No, I think if you manage to have this kind of curious mindset, then even if the person that you're having a dialogue with is saying something that you're totally against, you can think, I wonder why this person is saying this. And I think if you're in the position of wonder, and you're already in your mind, you have the words, I wonder why, then you are going to be naturally curious, and your mind will be stimulated. I think you always have to be in that position of wonder in life in general. You know, if you think, I wonder why, then I think that's the answer, isn't it? Then your curiosity is bigger. It is bigger than your ego, naturally.
Wonderment.
Because you're in a position of wonderment always. I wonder why that's happening. I wonder why. I wonder why. I wonder why he or she or they are shouting right now. And they're shouting at me. And if you wonder, then you're not in your position. Your ego is not already in that fired up and getting angry and say, look at them shouting at me. You're in the position of wonderment, so you're thinking, oh, I wonder why, what's got them so upset. And then you can be, it's going to radically change the way you think and the way you live your life, basically, isn't it?
Definitely.
I think I try and live like that.
Wonder,
so, yeah.
Putting yourself in other people's shoes and listening.
Yeah, putting yourself in other people's shoes.
But I think if you do put yourself in other people's shoes, your ego is not that big.
How could it be big? You've come out of your own body, as to say, in your own mind, and you're in somebody else's. That's a pure definition of being in a state of curiosity and wonderment. I mean, that would be amazing.
So maybe that's a solution then.
If we could all do that,
if we could do that more than
if we could do that, I think we'd be.
Because then you would learn from everyone you meet.
would be complete empathy, love. I think it's practically impossible, but I think if we did that, even just to 1%, you know, in every day from every person that we encounter, I think it would be an absolutely amazing world if we did that. There'd be no, imagine the road rage. How could you scream at somebody else when you're driving if you put yourselves in their shoes, even or imaginary?
Do you think that they're the people that have road rages because their egos are so big that they think they can drive so well?
Yes, I do think that could be part of it. Yeah, they have anger issues in other areas as well. But I do think if they let curiosity become bigger, then they would suddenly become curious and say, I wonder why that person's driving so slow. I wonder why. Maybe something's happened. Maybe they're not feeling too good, or maybe they've had some bad news. And then the curiosity would definitely,
help a lot, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would definitely help a lot. That could be the biggest solution. Just say, put yourself in somebody else's shoes in order to have this curious mindset. Being in a state of wonderment and wonder. Ask yourself, I wonder why. And then if that's not working, try and put yourself in their shoes maybe.
Put yourself in their shoes 2 and 3.
And 3 would be
lifelong learning.
Lifelong learning, definitely.
And 4.
What do you want 4 as well?
And 5.
Oh, you want 5? 4 would be
active listening.
Yeah, definitely active listening.
And 5.
And 5, we could say actively listen to yourself as well, and what's going on in your mind. Watch out for your ego and put a barrier there. Put a barrier up.
Stop sign.
Stop ego now, and put like a big stop sign. Yeah, is that 5?
That's 5.
Ah, that's 5. So there you go.
So 5 reasons.
5 reasons, and 5 kind of little hacks. How you can get your curiosity to become larger than your ego and keep the ego at bay.
And I think, just as a bonus, always keep the child within you alive.
Brava. Yes, bravo. Brava in Italian, bravo in English. Yes, I think definitely. Yeah, I think that's
children
really good.
Are naturally curious,
even though their
egos are small.
Even though when you are a grown-up person, some people just can't remember that child within them.
No, but I think you can always.
Do you believe you can?
There's always some little toy or something that brings it back. A little smell.
A little smell, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But smells. But obviously, if you've had an unhappy childhood, you might not want to do that, but you can still give your inner child a hug.
Absolutely, yeah.
And maybe if you haven't been able to be curious when you were little, as therapists will say, you can always give your inner child, your little child that was inside you, that 5-year-old child, a hug, and then go and explore with that little 5-year-old child what you would have liked to do at that age. If you had all the wonderful possibilities, if you had all the crayons and drawings and the parks and the blossom and the trees and anything you wanted, swings and balloons and cakes and parties, and go and explore with your little inner child.
Yeah,
just daydream with them.
Daydream with them
and explore
and have
wonderful possibilities.
Yeah, I was thinking about those things where you blow bubbles now. You know, they were always so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's just soap and dishwater, wasn't it? It was just
nothing.
Just nothing. Yeah, just nothing.
So enjoy and let us know. Let us know what you think, and please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And if you'd like to see the video, come and watch it on YouTube as well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Lots of love and smiles from the
English sisters.
Bye.